Hello everyone, welcome back to Naomi's Bookshelf. I have read a total of I think 17 books, maybe 18, I can't remember to be honest, in the first 15 days of June. So May continued on in a really good way, and let's talk about them. So the first book that I read in June was actually for Buzzwordathon, and this one was Take a Hint, Dani Brown. This is by Talia Hibbert, and I liked it better than Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and I think it's because the characters were just more my cup of tea, but at the same time the tropes weren't as tropey for me. I definitely appreciated this trope thing more, and I did like how the anxiety rep was handled. So this one follows Dani Brown as she is like student lecturer, or no, she's a lecturer, but she's not quite a PhD doctorate, I think is how it's been a while. Anyways, she and this security guard kind of have a flirt thing going on, and then they pretend to fake date in order to get publicity for his charity football, because they are in England, football league. So it's a lot of fun. I do enjoy a good fake dating trope when it's handled well, and I felt like it was handled well. So I appreciate that one a bit more. I think I still gave it 3 stars, but it was better than book 1. And I am actually really interested in book 3, so I'm on hold for that one. Like I said in my wrap up in May, where I talked about Get a Life, Chloe Brown, I want to support an author who talks about real struggles like anxiety or chronic pain. And I'm not sure what exactly the rep is in the next one, but I am really appreciative of an author who does do that, like talk about these things. And I do also appreciate the fact that she talks about them in a really human way. And I am interested, I think, in the next one. The next one sounds like it's about Eve who runs over her potential boss with a car, and so she stays around to help him, which sounds like a really fun trope. So I'm interested in that one. And yeah, it just, their romance, they're a little on the sexy side, a lot on the sexy side sometimes, so I skipped those sections, but that's just not my personal taste, and I do recommend them for anyone who wants to read a book about the real human struggle sometimes. The next one that I read was actually part of a series, so I'm going to talk about them as kind of a whole here. I read Afternoon on the Amazon, Sunset of the Saber-Toothed Tiger, I don't have Afternoon of the Amazon here, Midnight on the Moon, Dolphins at Daybreak, and Ghost Town at Sundown. So these are all from the Magic Treehouse series. They're all very tiny. This one, Ghost Town at Sundown, was for Pastorathon, which is hosted by Angie from Literary Labors. I will link her down below. And I am enjoying this reread series. I think each of them has different quality for me. So like this one wasn't as great. It had a 3-star rating for me for just informative level and how much it would teach me as a child about, you know, the Wild West. But Dolphins at Daybreak, I felt like was very informative about the ocean, and it was intriguing, and I felt like that was much more enthusiastic for me. So I gave it 4 stars. And so I have them all on my Goodreads rated. Midnight on the Moon was also pretty good. I think I gave it 4 stars, and Sunset of the Saber-Toothed Tiger I gave 3 stars. So Afternoon at the Amazon, I think I gave a 4 star as well. So I think I just gave them all different ratings based on how each book is informative and also how the adventure goes, whether it falls a little on the flat side or not, but none of them have gotten less than a 3 star from me. Even as an adult, I think they are all very good for children. It's not a long read. They each take me about 20 minutes to fly through on audio, and even in physical form, I read really fast, and these are like 60 pages, so that takes me 20 minutes, and I'm not upset about it at all. The next one I read was Burial Rites by Hannah Kent. This one I buddy read with one of my subscribers, and it was really haunting. This one is about the last woman executed in Iceland, and it was just, yeah, like I said, haunting. Because you know that she was the last one executed, you know there is no reprieve, but at the same time it builds up this story of how the crime happened. Potentially it is fiction, but at the same time you get to know this woman. So it follows her as she is brought to this family and she's treated like an animal, like she's treated horribly by the guards. And then this family meets her, and the way the book is told in first person from her perspective, and also third person for the people around her, looking at her, seeing her, and how they view her as a criminal, part of this master plan to kill her employer and his friend. It's very interesting, and I really did enjoy the writing style. I felt like it was very well done, and I really did enjoy it, even though it's very sad. And Agnes is such a sympathetic character in a lot of ways, because you really feel for her as the book progresses, and she doesn't come across as someone who is uppity. She comes across as someone who just was in a really bad spot and she had no choice. But at the same time, you don't really know what to make of it. Yeah, I feel like in that situation, what would you do? And I feel like that's how the book really came across. I don't know how, if I could ever watch the movie, to be honest, because there was a movie, or there is a movie coming out, and after feeling all the feelings, I don't know if I could watch it, to be honest. But yeah, very good book. I definitely gave it 4 stars, and I just didn't get a 5-star feeling out of it. There were some things that I didn't love about it, but I definitely enjoyed how they had newspaper articles in there, all fictionalized, of course, but yeah, it was really worth the read, and I really am glad I read it. Next, I listened to Romeo and Juliet on full cast. Now, this one is interesting because I listened to Romeo and Juliet as my very first Shakespeare play ever, and let me tell you, as a 14-year-old, maybe 13-year-old, I was like, these teenagers are dumb. I was not impressed with them. I was like, this is not worth dying for. And so I thought Shakespeare was really stupid when I was a teenager. And so I was like, this is a book I need to reread. This is a play I need to revisit and intentionally look at with a clear mind and try to see it from a new perspective. So I did. And I definitely see the value in it. I see it as a much better play, and I see it with so much more depth than I did before. And even as I was listening to it, I remember at one point when Juliet's mother's like, I was your age and I had you, and she's 14. It's like, whoa, wait a second. Juliet's mother is 28 years old. Like, what? Or she's like 27? Like, I cannot imagine that. Like, that's younger than me. She's what? That's nuts. And it's just the perception of the world back then, right? Like, it just brings to light a different perspective. And I think that's why I was able to look at it in a different lens. I was also able to see it through the lens of, this is a tragedy and not a romance necessarily. This is about young love. This is about first glance. This is about insta lust, and this is about instant attraction, but this is not, that undying forever love. And this is about 2 teenagers who felt like they had no other options, and their families are forcing them in different directions, or at least Juliet's family was forcing her in a direction she hated, and her family really felt that, and so did his family. And they at the end discovered the consequences of it, and I really discovered the value of that. So if you, like me, first read Romeo and Juliet and was like, this is stupid, maybe try again, because I definitely saw the value in it a second time around. And I think I gave it 4 stars. It was really good, and I think the audiobook with the full cast was definitely the way to go. I have heard that screen versions of it never really do it justice, and so I decided to go with an audiobook for that reason alone. And the one I found through my library app was quite well done. So I'll put a picture of it here in case you want to check out that one specifically. Next, I listened to an audiobook, which I got from NetGalley, and I have like fully gone into ARC mode again, which has been really exciting. I am like ready to get back into ARCs, and it's really fun. So one of the ARCs that I got was called Evil Roman Emperors, and this was by Phillip Barlag, and it is just a really like beginner's look at evil Roman emperors. And even as someone who loves ancient Rome, it's been a while since I've looked at it, so I kind of needed a refresher anyways. And one of the things that he did is he talked about all of these things. At the beginning, he said that he was going to rank them at the end, but also he was going to try and talk about the Roman emperors in the least gory way possible, even though sometimes he would have to be gory because these Roman emperors were awful. And he also said that these are not all emperors. Some of these people were leaders in the community that just weren't emperors, but they still led the country for a reasonable amount of time, and therefore they also made bad decisions, and that's why they're on this list. And I think that was really clever, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I think it was really well done. The audiobook also was really good. I really enjoyed it. I thought the narrator did a spectacular job. It was actually genuinely funny to me in so many ways. Just the dry wit that this book had, at least when it came out in audio form, really enjoyed. And I think it was really informative in a pretty non-gory way as best you could, despite the content. I will link my review down below, but I really recommend this if you're wanting a like cursory glance at ancient Rome, but also just discussing different things like the politics of the ancient times and how the different people went, like different politics of how, you know, an emperor passed down to the next one. And at the very end, he discusses his own ranking of worst, like, or best to worst out of the worst of the worst. And then he asks how you do it. And like, I would actually, if I ever got my hands on a physical book of it, I would probably try writing them all down, but I wasn't writing them down. I was just enjoying the listening experience, to be honest. So I think you should check out that book if you're at all interested. I think it is worth a read. Actually, this one was also for Buzzwordathon, as Emperors is technically a title, or Emperor is technically a title, so it's also a Buzzwordathon book. And my next book was as well. So this is Miss Pym Disposes by Josephine Tay. I read this for Kate Howe's Summer Book Club, and I will link her announcement video down below. It was an actually really good one, but I think the description gives too much away. At least the way that a lot of classics give away too much information. So this one is really about a school full of girls, and it's just an academic mystery. These girls are not content with the way that the school is being run. There's a lot of mischievous things going on, and they're all about to graduate, and Miss Pym is there. She's invited to do a lecture on psychology, and it is really interesting. I think the whole book is about psychology of the mind, but also because Miss Pym is not an actual teacher there or professor, she is kind of invited into the girls' circle, and therefore she gets more information, and it is very interesting. I think it is a nice cozy mystery, but at the same time it's just a look into the human mind while being in a school setting, in graduation week essentially. And I don't want to tell you any more. If you at all like cozy mysteries, this is a book for you, but I don't want to say anything more, so pick it up. So another book that I read for the Buzzwordathon, which these are all books that I finished in like the first 7 days of the month, so, and they all happen to have names in the title, was The Lais of Marie de France, and I gave this one 3 stars. I think as it's like a short story collection of myths, it was never gonna get a 5-star from me, and as it was kind of hit or miss in some regards, I can't give it more than a 3. It was interesting. Some of the myths were, or some of the stories, the Lais were very interesting. However, some of them were kind of just, okay, gotta finish this one so I can get on to the next one. I don't even know how to really review it because it is just a collection of Arthurian legends, or Marie de France's version of Arthurian legends. So that's, I think, all I could review to say on it. This was for Ancients-a-thon, and I did enjoy reading some ancient literature for that. However, it did take me quite a while to read, and I thought it'd take me a lot shorter because some of the plays were a little on the drier side, shall we say, and I guess I'm just not used to reading that type of language. Although I will say, after how much I've been reading of ancient literature this month so far, I'm definitely getting used to it. So, man, I'm getting a crash course in ancient literature. And I don't know if I'm like ready to move on. I think I might be. Anyways, yeah, it was a 3-star, and I am interested to read more like that. However, I think it's just when it comes to short story collections, I'm never going to give them a 5-star, and I'm much more likely to give them a lower rating than a high one. Another Ancients-a-thon book, I think we're just going to go into a blitz of Ancients-a-thon, so brace yourself, is The Odyssey by Homer. So in this one, it follows, what's his name? Odessa? I listened to it on audio even, which I will highly recommend the audiobook from Audible with this cover, because that one is spectacular. Even before I picked up the audiobook, the narrator, well, not the narrator, but the translation note, it was like, I've chosen to use these terms because of the women's actions and not treatment of the women. And like, I was like, I'm sold already. I'm sold. I don't care. You are my favorite translation already because of how you're treating these characters and these women. I don't care if I've never even read the story before. Like, I don't care. So anyways, if you haven't read the Odyssey, it's about Odessa as he is trying to get home. It does take a little detour as it talks about him going back and like, or how he was stuck in Troy and then how he tried to come home and not. I will say, no one ever told me, and I think I've become more aware of this, and I will say I became more aware of this because of a video from Jackie, who I'll link her channel down below, but Jackie Reads and Writes. She made a video about male rape in TV or TV culture, and I can't remember the name of the video exactly, but I will link her down below. Anyways, this book has male rape, and I think people should know that going in. And it's, I don't care if it's just because it's a goddess. Odessa doesn't have to sleep with her. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. So it does contain male rape, I will say that. So trigger warning for that. And it was good. I'm giving it 4 stars. I think it is a really interesting classic, and I'm really happy that I have read it, and I think the whole resolution was really interesting. And I looked for the translator that I listened to have she translated the Iliad, and she did not. So I have to listen to the Iliad by someone else or read it physically by someone else. I have the Iliad physically as well, but I loved her translation of the Odyssey. And from what I looked up online, many people who have listened to many versions of the Odyssey have loved her translation the best. So like I said, her pictures here of her translation, I would highly recommend it. And like I said, she really treated her word choices very carefully, even when it came to slavery and different things like the women not being called prostitutes or anything like that. She was very intentional. And she said that in her translation notes, and I was very impressed previous to even picking up the first book of this book. So liked it a lot. So let's get into the next one, which is the group book for Ancients-a-thon, and that was The Pilgrim's Progress. And I read that one by John Bunyan. I don't remember his last name. Anyways, I did read this one, and I actually got an audio from my library, so I listened to the whole thing, and I was like, this is really long for a 3-hour or 300-page book. Little did I know I was reading 2 books, which is Pilgrim's Progress and Pilgrim's Progress, the second book in the series, which is Christina's journey. So let's break it down. First one is the first one being Pilgrim's Progress, and I gave that one 4 stars. I love how it shows Christian as he is going through the different levels and how he fights with his journey and how he has to struggle and how he has his different friends along the way. And I really did enjoy that one. I think I've actually read the original version before, but it was nice to revisit it. And I really did love it. However, then I read book 2 and I didn't enjoy it. I'm giving it 2 stars. I'm giving the first one 4 stars and the second one 2 stars. And I feel like I'm gonna say this, and I want to say it right now, that I am gonna be speaking through my Christian mind space, like my Christian worldview. I'm gonna talk through my faith's worldview, okay? In the book, the second one, The Pilgrim's Progress, Christina's, I think that's the title of it. Anyways, Christina's journey. Christina does not go through her journey and face things in her faith path on her own. She has a defender who does everything for her. And I felt like when you are a Christian, you do not get to skip out on your own battles. You have to fight your own faith, and you have to fight things like that castle of depression. You have to challenge things like the monsters. You have to stand up to those lions, and you have to walk through that valley of death. And I know those are all in allegory terms, in the literal sense in that case, but I mean, come on. She did none of those things. Or if she did, she had someone who was like, this is fine, it's okay, just walk here, or we're walking through in the daylight so you don't have to face them. And I just was so disappointed in the fact that it was a difficult journey, but she didn't have to do much of her journey of faith by herself. Or if she did, she didn't have to put in the work because someone else did the work for her. And that's not how faith works. Like, and I know I'm not probably saying this correctly, because faith is not, at least I believe that faith is not works-based. You believe, and I'm getting really preachy, I'm so sorry. But what I'm trying to say is that when it came to things like fighting her own battles, she never did. And that's why in Pilgrim's Progress book 2, I am rating it so low, because it's not a proper example of what it is to walk down that road. Even with other people, it's not a good example. So I'm sorry if that was a lot. Anyways, yeah, I liked some parts of it, but honestly, it was just too much of the man will take care of me, and I cannot do it myself. And I was so over it. The next book that I read was Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead. This is by Olga. I'm trying to read her last name. I can't. She's from Poland. It's a translated book, and it was very interesting. It's a literary murder mystery about how these men who are killing animals or showing cruelty to animals start dying. And I don't really know how else to say. It's this woman who is like about, I would say 60s. She starts seeing these people, like seeing these situations, and she's trying to talk to the police about it, and they just don't believe her. And it's just a really interesting take on it. However, I only give it 4 stars. It just was a little dense with like astrology talk, and it was interesting. It did have an interesting aspect of poetry in there with William Blake, and I found it to be an interesting murder mystery book. If you are wanting something that is a little different, this might be the book for you. It wasn't that long, however, it was a different take on it, so it's a little odd, I'll say. And it took a little while for me to get into it, but once I did, I was pretty hooked. However, it wasn't a perfect book for me. So my next book was an Agatha Christie, and that was The Mysterious Affair at Styles. I know I said I would read Five Little Pigs this month, and I'm going to try still to read that one. This one is because I have actually joined an Agatha Christie monthly book club online, and I will actually link it down below. It's on Facebook, and you can join if you would like to. We are reading her entire canon. I think eventually it might take us years, but we are starting in order of her publication date. So this is first, and I had read it before, but I forgot details, to be honest, and it was nice to read it again. And I'm not a Hastings fan. I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'm not a Hastings fan. However, I was like, I appreciate this more the first time, than the first time around. I think first time it was a female narrator, and it was like, that's not a good choice for a Hastings book. Second time around, I had a male narrator around, and that was better. So, better choice. And I also liked his choices, I think, a bit better. And then this one I also knew kind of, but I didn't see where this was going. Again, I somehow forgot. I knew some things. I feel like Agatha Christie, because she has so many books, I forget the end results of some of these, unless it's like my favorite books of hers, and then I'm like surprised. I don't know how she does it to me. I know the endings, and she still surprises me. It's genius. Anyways, so really great, solid first book. I'm impressed with her debut novel. And so, yeah, Mysterious Affair at Styles. It's about a family where they're very dysfunctional, as Agatha Christie starts off with. She just always has dysfunction. But basically, Hastings is invited to this family, and when the mother dies, and Poirot just happens to be in the village, and this is your first book of Poirot, and it is a wonderful, wonderful book. However, Hastings is a little annoying, as always, and his girl drama, he never is without it. I will say that. Anyways, it's a good one. I will have a review of this one coming out once I have read 2 more Agatha Christie books, which will be 1 more probably this month with Five Little Pigs, and 1 more in July, I hope, with the next in her publication order. So yeah, you can keep your eyes peeled for that, but you can also check out the link down below for the Facebook group if you would like to. Another book that I read was from this bind up, and that was A Cry in the Night. So this is a bind up of 3 Mary Higgins Clark's book, and so it's not actually that long, but the version on Goodreads has 300 pages. And I don't know, I just I feel like I've kind of outgrown Mary Higgins Clark, and I think she was like, oh wow, she's like addictive, like popcorn or potato chips kind of easy mysteries to read. And I'm just like, it's not a bad thing if an author's like that, but when it came to this, I was like reading A Cry in the Night, and it just was kind of like, I put it down and then I forgot to read it again, or I had other books to read, and I'm just like, I'm just not interested in continuing with this book or owning this book anymore. Editing me here realizes that I never told you what A Cry in the Night is about. So A Cry in the Night is about a woman who is a single mom, and she marries this man after literally knowing him for like 2 weeks, and there's like a bunch of red flags, and basically it's all about her realizing how bad that marriage choice was and her trying to get away. And it was just basically a suspense novel of her just trying to get away from him, and that was the whole plot. It was kind of addictive, but at the same time I was really ready to put it down and not finish it, but I wanted to finish it just because I could then and knock it off of my pile of books that I was reading. Back to the rest of the video. Like as a whole, so like the other 2 books I don't really care about reading. And then I have other books by her that I'm just like, well, I'm just gonna get rid of this one and I'll just get rid of this one. So I'm getting rid of 4 Mary Higgins Clark books without reading them. So I'm unhauling 5 of them because I just don't want to, I don't know, they're taking up space on my shelves and it's not like I'm gonna read them anytime soon. And if I do, my library has tons of them. So there's no point. And I have so many other mystery authors that I want to read, or like that I would much rather spend time prioritizing, like Charles Todd. And that's especially one that I know I'm like, I have so many of their books. That's Mother-Son Duo, that I'm like, I have so many of their books. And that's that's a Mother-Son Duo that I want to read so much of. And I just feel like I don't have time to read. So why not prioritize them over Mary Higgins Clark? So yeah. And so the last book that we'll talk about is Bare Bones by Kathy Reichs. I have actually not read this because I took it out from my library on ebook and I was like, why am I on page, 130 out of 500 or something? And I've already tried to read this. And then I was like, well, start again and try again. And I got to like page, I don't know, I got like 50% of the way through and I was like, I give up. So I'm hard DNFing this. I'm like done trying. I'm not finishing this. I'm calling it. So this book is just, it's about exotic animals. It's about animals that are going extinct, but at the same time, it's about a plane that's like crashed. It's apparently about a serial killer according to the reviews. It's about this baby that was in a wood stove. It's about a hand that was found in a bear's skeleton. It's so convoluted. I don't want to. So I'm getting rid of that one. And then I was like, well, if I just don't want to read her books anymore, like why keep other books by her? So I'm also getting rid of Crossbones because like I said about Mary Higgins Clark, I have so many other books I want to read by other authors. So I can get rid of this one. I can get rid of Deja Dead because I have my library, which has tons of them. And I have Devil Bones. So I'm getting rid of those ones. So I'm getting rid of tons of books this month because I'm unhauling everything by Kathy Reichs and Mary Higgins Clark, all due to my 2 picks for, well, not my official picks from my TBR Clue, but at least one of them, and the other one I was already like found on my library app and was like, oh, I'll just read this. And that proved to be very helpful, at least in unhauling some things. So I'm calling my TBR jar thing for the month completed if I've only read one of those. So that's it for this month's books that I've read. I don't know how many that is, to be honest, right now, but I'm in the middle of like 3 more and I'm enjoying them so far, but yeah, it'll be good. So we'll see how many more I finish out in the month, but I'm pretty much just gonna take it easy. I think I only have a couple more spots for TBR Clue, but you'll find out which ones those are at the end of the month unless you've been keeping track with this video according to TBR Clue. So I hope that you are doing well. Please like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you are new here. Please also leave a comment down below if you have read Kathy Reichs or Mary Higgins Clark and you suggest that I check out their books, in particular a certain one, because I would like to try them again, but I'm not going to buy their books. I'm just gonna check them out from my library. And I don't see a problem with that. I just don't want to have them taking up space on my shelves. Or if you've had a great reading month so far, and what's your favorite book that you've read so far in the month of June? I will talk to you later. Bye for now.